Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and of course, our partners that hold us down. I'm Ron Grant. Welcome back to Season 6 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Now don't worry, it's not always about suits and bow ties, but instead, real-life lessons that truly translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. My next guest is by far one of the most sought-after financial services professionals across the territory. His experience speaks for itself. He is happily married and, of course, a father. We're going to talk all things with the man himself, Mr. Humphry Leue. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Orange alert! Orange alert!
Fire is spreading across the BVI. The fastest, most reliable, and affordable fiber internet service is here for you. Look out for Fire in these new locations: Slaney, Duff Bottom, Manual Reef, Steakhouse Bay, Albion, Hannah's, Palestina, Pleasant Valley, and Havers. Fiber is in your area. Call 444-4444 or visit a CCT store to find out more and bring it home. More locations coming soon.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. As promised, I am joined by the distinguished gentleman himself, Humphry Leue. Humphrey, welcome to the show, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Good to be here.
As I mentioned in the introduction, and make no mistake about it, when you hear the name Humphry Leue, it comes with much respect. It comes with much admiration. Having been in the financial services industry for quite some time, you have built a very, what I call, targeted brand for yourself. I want to talk about the professional aspect. For those who may
Sure.
not know, tell us a little bit about your professional career.
Sure. So my background is actually in accounting. I studied accounting in a university in the U.S. And prior to coming to the BVI, some 30 odd years ago now, I lived in Europe, and I had an opportunity to come to the BVI at that time and work for what was then, and perhaps still is today, one of the premier trust companies in the BVI. And at that time, the idea was, as with most expats, because I was an expat at the time, that you spend, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the particular jurisdiction, gain some experience, move up in the ranks, and then transfer to other jurisdictions within the company,
Region, yeah.
and then, continue the career. But the BVI sort of became my home. As I said, it's been over 30 years now, and I'm still here. In the meantime, I had some other positions within the financial services industry, private sector. I also worked for a while at what was then called the International Finance Center. Now it's called BVI Finance. When at that time, Director Lorna Smith, now Minister Smith, went to London to lead the London office. And so I was the person leading the BVI Finance here. And then eventually I decided that, it's time to go on my own.
Gotcha.
And so I started up a local business consultancy, management consulting, in 2007, I want to say, 2008. And that's what I've been doing since. So a two-phase career, private sector, and then an entrepreneur.
Understood. I find it intriguing, and I have to ask you, what was it about the BVI that caused you to choose to make it your home?
Sure. Well, it's a funny story because when I was first approached by my then, what would be my future employer here, they told me that if I was interested in a position in the Virgin Islands. Now, you're talking, 30 odd years ago. At that time, I did not even know about Tortola
Got you.
or the BVI. I assumed it meant St. Thomas or St. John because I was aware of the BVI, even though I was from the Caribbean myself originally. So when they told me, no, this is a Tortola, British Virgin Islands, I thought, well, having lived in sort of the cold winters of Europe for a few years, going back to the Caribbean appealed to me.
Gotcha.
And so I came here. And as I said, it wasn't the intention, but feeling at home back in the Caribbean, because I had been away, studying and living in Europe afterwards. So being back in the Caribbean, I think, gave me a sense of belonging again. I fell in love with the country, the people immediately. I think having colleagues and sort of a support group, because I was the only one here. I did not have any family, any relatives. I didn't really know anybody other than the people who interviewed me initially. But I think the warmth of the people here, and again, the warmth of the climate, I think, made it easier for me to stay. I should say, for those people who know me, it would be remiss if I didn't say that a female companion at that time probably also contributed to my stay, because I did have opportunity and occasion to move on. But romance at that time kept me here a bit longer.
Understood.
And
we're gonna get to the romance.
All right, no problem. So one thing led to the other, and but really and truly, I should maybe add that there was a period of time when I had a secondment and a contract overseas, and it wasn't clear that I would be returning. But every time I came back to visit, or if I had certain business transactions or meetings that I had to attend here, the BVI kept calling me back. There was just something about the place. And so I decided, home is home.
Absolutely.
And I came back and I kissed the ground and said, this is it.
This is it. Got you. I have to ask you, with your extensive knowledge and expertise of the financial services industry, of course, within the past few years, there have been a number of essentially contributing factors that would seem to want to perhaps threaten what we would know as a very robust and healthy financial services.
Yes.
As a financial services professional, is there anything that you think is misinterpreted about the industry?
It may not be misinterpretation. It may be a lack of understanding as to what we do. I remember that in those days when I first started, there was a lot of talk about and even today, tax havens as we were known then, as opposed to international finance centers as we refer to now, being places where people hide money, and there's a lot of nefarious activities going on that we contribute to the world. I think that has fortunately changed for the most part now. Politicians, business people, and sort of the population at large generally has become more educated, I think, on what contributions we make. Yeah. But yes, there's still a lot of obviously organizations that put pressure on jurisdictions like the BVI, and there's still somewhat of a stigma, I think, as misunderstanding as to sort of the benefits and the reasons why people need and why we exist as a jurisdiction in terms of financial services. People understand tourism.
Yes.
People travel and go on vacation. It's not something you need to sort of study for. You see it. But in terms of the education that needs to take place still about financial services generally, whether it's banking, whether it's insurance, whether it's investment business, trust, I think there's still some lack of understanding. And that then leads to, people, that may sort of say disparaging things about the BVI or other jurisdictions, and it doesn't get challenged because people don't really understand, what it's really all about.
I agree.
But it's our job as practitioners to sort of set the record straight, to put information out there, to fight those, not literally, obviously, but defend, as it were, yes, the jurisdiction, because we do have a lot that we can proudly talk about to the world. For a small jurisdiction, we can hardly see us on the map to be a leader.
Definitely punching above our weight.
Absolutely, and so there's a lot to be said for that. It's not by accident. obviously there's a lot of people who over the years have made contributions and some sacrifices, personal, to ensure the success of the jurisdiction. So I think it's more a sort of lack of understanding than misinterpretation, as it were. Right?
Understood. One of the things that I want to talk about, of course, and as you know, the aim of the show is to inspire the next generation.
Sure,
You are a father
I am.
of a young man, young adult.
Indeed.
What has that journey throughout fatherhood? What has that been like for you?
I think any father who tells you that parenthood is not something they enjoy probably either is not being honest or hasn't really fully immersed themselves in fatherhood. In
Gotcha.
our case, one of the greatest joys I think any person, I suppose male or female, can have is not only seeing your child born, but raising that child to become a young adult, hopefully responsible adult. So for me, it's been an absolute joy. I will say that I mentioned earlier a little bit about romance. The romantic part didn't always work out for me, but fatherhood, I think, and I'm sure my son and others that I've raised would back me up to say that it's been a wonderful journey.
Beautiful.
The joy that you get in seeing your children grow up and become upstanding citizens, making positive contributions to their own lives as well as the society. I think that's very important. And so for the young men out there, respect your parents. I know we live in a society, not only in the BVI, but in the Caribbean, perhaps particularly, where a lot of families and a lot of youngsters are being raised by single parents, whether male or female, fathers and mothers both. And that has perhaps some social consequences. But I think,
Absolutely.
The fact that you're able to not only create life, as it were, but transform it into a productive individual as they grow up, for me has been certainly, inspiring. My son is living overseas now. I do have stepchildren who are here. I say stepchildren, but essentially I look at them as my children. I don't make any distinction really, but as society determines it. What my son lives overseas, I do not know that he will be coming back to the BVI because of opportunities that he's now been able to take advantage of. But his heart is still here, and he visits occasionally. But being a father, yes, has been an absolute joy. I have fond memories. I will say, I look at photos now. My son he was born in 1996. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. But so he's a young adult now. But I looked recently at photos of when he was, an infant, and I cannot believe the time that has gone by. But yes, fatherhood is something that I still enjoy even at this stage.
Is there anything that fatherhood taught you about yourself?
It made me a better person, I think. I think before I became a father, I perhaps wasn't as tolerant. I perhaps wasn't as patient. I think it made me feel a sense of responsibility because you have this innocent life that you're now responsible for, along with the mother. And I believe I took that responsibility seriously, perhaps more than anything else that I had done personally. Before that, I enjoyed the freedoms of life. I could have played sports when I wanted to, or party when I wanted to. But I think as a father, especially with a young child, if you're committed to it, I think it teaches you that it's an awesome responsibility. But looking back now, I think again, hopefully, I would have done a decent job. And I think the proof of that is that the children,
Of course.
have sort of done good things in life.
I know that you're proud of it.
Certainly, absolutely. And I think that's always a good thing for a parent to be able to say, job is not done. You're as long as your children are alive, you're a parent for life. But I suppose the most important or the most critical part, has now done. And now that children are adults, as parents, we get to enjoy their company in a different way. We get to have certain discussions
Indeed.
that we couldn't have when they were 3, 4, 5 years old. So
Would
the
you
dynamic has changed.
Was there any particular person in your life that you would say took on a bit of a mentee or role model perspective that would have allowed you to flourish into the individual that you are today?
I would say my own father.
Okay,
I look back at, and he's still alive.
beautiful.
Both my parents are still alive. I'm very blessed to have both my parents still with us. But I would say that, he and my mother were examples to us, and me and my siblings. And when I think back now at myself being a father, certainly I believe having some of his personality traits probably helped. Although I probably have more of my mother in me than my dad. But certainly my father, as a father figure, and as somebody who has shaped me, certainly in the many first years of life, I think have contributed to how I approached fatherhood. And I think, it's a blessing to be able to say that, because I know that, not all young men and not all boys
Can say that. Yeah.
can say that, that their father has been such an important and positive. And I don't want to sound negative as if that's the norm. It's not a norm, but
it's definitely a fact.
it's a factor, in society. And so, again, in terms of the purpose of the program and inspiring, especially young fathers, be involved in your children's life, in your child's life, boy or girl. It's very, very important. You may not realize it now, but as the children grow up, they do look up to you. And someone may be sitting in this chair years from now and talking about you, and hopefully we'll be saying the things that I'm saying now. So I think
Amazing.
it's important.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Viewers, we are, of course, chopping it up with the man himself, the one and only Humphry Leue. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Gentlemen, it's time to discover That Guy Experience. We are a product line specifically catering to the men with beards. Our products are 100% natural and handmade right here in the BVI. Butters, oils, and cleansing products, all designed to add softeners, shine, and growth to your beard and hair. Visit us at Meraki Hair Clinic or thatguybvi.com and begin your journey as that guy. We are a life-changing experience. That Guy Hair and Beard Products. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. Humphrey, I have to ask you, before the break, we had a discussion and romance came up.
Sure.
And you were very honest in saying that while romance didn't always work out, there were still some positives. I wanna talk about that because I feel as though sometimes it's not necessarily. It's definitely something we don't seem to want to talk about a lot. You've been
Relationships
and
yeah.
the success of them or the lack thereof.
Right.
But in knowing you personally, not only seeing it, and third marriage,
Indeed.
right? And you seem quite happy in this present.
I can say without any fear of contradiction that this is probably the happiest I've been in terms of relationships. You don't go through life thinking that whatever relationship you're in is not going to work out. Obviously, you try to work it out. You meet people, and for one reason or another, sometimes. Whether you sort of grow apart or whether circumstances in life influence the relationship, things happen. But yes, I think the lesson is that one should never give up on love. And probably the most important thing is, aside from finding someone that you can get along with, first and foremost, in terms of personality, matching personalities, as it were, is a communication. And so I think that, I will say, by the way, that in my case, and some people are surprised by this when they see this, I still have a good relationship with with previous relationships. So it's not as if there were bitter departures or animosity. Things didn't work out, whether because of the children or whatever. You still maintain that communication and that civility to the point where you actually have a friendly relationship. But in terms of my current latest and last,
I like that.
yes,
Latest and last.
indeed, I can say that I'm quite happy. I think it's every man's wish, hope, and dream, I suppose, to meet what is often referred to as their soulmate. Perhaps it's a term that gets overused maybe. But certainly in my case, I can say that I've met her, and the years that we've spent together so far. If those are any indication of what the rest of my life will be like, it's going to be a happy life. It is a happy life, and I think it's going to continue to be. Thank you so much.
I want to speak about the ability, and you eloquently really just described that. But what do you say to the individual who perhaps have not had the success in romance, but because of a lot of the societal norms that we've become attached to, quote unquote, give up.
Yes.
You mentioned never giving up on
On
love,
love.
but the ability to simply say it isn't working out or it hasn't worked out,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that you stop. What do you say to that?
Yeah,
Because clearly you haven't.
true. I think first of all that we must take care that we do not get into a serious relationship or let the relationship become serious unless we're sure that there are elements and ingredients for it to work. I think too often we may rush into certain relationships. And things have changed. Our parents' generation and generations before that were living in a different world than we are now, with social media and everything else. And so, I'm not answering your question yet directly, but I think before we get into any relationship that develops into something serious and longer term, we have to make sure that we get to know the person. I mean, basic things. Spend time together. Do not rush into intimacy too quickly, things like that, right? But, hopefully things work out. But to the extent that they don't, I think we have to come to sort of an understanding, and especially as men, because we feel, I think as men, that we still want to be perhaps the maybe not the dominant figure in the relationship, but as men we feel a certain responsibility
Absolutely.
to make things succeed. And we look at it as maybe a personal failure, perhaps, if things don't succeed.
Many do.
When we try to be serious about it, it's not. I think oftentimes is not necessarily a reflection on yourself that you have failed. There's many reasons why relationships succeed,
work out,
but it's also relationship why they don't work out. But I think that listen, there's billions of people in the world. Certainly, there is at least one person out there who is meant to be yours. And we pray that we find that person, if not in the first instance, maybe on the second go around. But I believe what I said earlier. Do not give up on love. One of the things, as a side note, perhaps one of the things that I've noticed here, I say this as a man, but I've noticed when I go out, socially, I often and this is I've noticed it, on more than for a certain time now. There seems to be a lot of either single women in the BVI in particular, or women who are not out with men a lot.
Okay.
And that struck me. I mean, we talked earlier about my present marriage. My wife and I go out pretty much everywhere together. People who know us know
Socially,
this.
of course. Yeah.
Socially, yes. And it struck me, and I do not exactly know why. Is it that there's simply a lack, the numbers are not there, meaning there simply are not enough men, to couple up with women? Is it something different? This may not be the forum for that, but it speaks to the what you said
Good
earlier.
observation.
Well, in terms of where are the men and why are they not involved with these women? I mean, these are in many cases, successful professional women. And so, again, it's maybe a discussion for another day. But I think, to the extent that men are out there, we need to, as it were, step up to the plate.
Absolutely.
And find and please, the women who are looking for responsible, serious relationships.
Absolutely.
And that is not age dependent.
Correct.
We have young professionals, people who come out of school, whether high school or college, entering into their careers, who may be focusing on careers, but who still, have,
That longing, yeah.
longing for companionship, for relationships. And so I'm not sure where the disconnect is that seems to be there, but happily in my case, I found the person
You found that other
to
half,
share
that
life
better
with.
half.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So I wish that on every male and female person out there.
Indeed. I have to ask you because we work closely together in the capacity as Rotarians.
Sure.
I'm a much newer Rotarian than you are,
Right.
but I want to talk about that level of service that you have given with your fellow Rotarians.
Yes.
What does being a Rotarian mean to you?
It means that we can give back to the community. Earlier in the conversation, I talked about so much having received so much from the BVI and having come back and making it my home, and so I feel that it's a responsibility on those of us who've been successful in some way or another, career-wise or social-wise or in athletics, whatever the case may be, to give back to the community, realizing that not everyone is as blessed or as fortunate that I or you have been. And to the extent that we can give back,
Yes.
Rotary certainly I feel is one of the best organizations to do so. I mean, there's a track record of over 100 years now of making a difference, not only locally but regionally, internationally. Because as you know, even though there are several Rotary clubs in the BVI, we not only focus on getting things done here, but within
Across
the
the
region.
world, yeah.
Exactly. We've done the BVI groups have done clubs have done things in Haiti, in South America, other parts of the region, as well as locally. So as a Rotarian, I think it was certainly a way for me to, in a formal way, be able to join a group of other persons of like mind who feel the need, who see the need, and who have the desire to make positive contributions, not just financial, because I think sometimes people feel like these clubs, all they do is maybe fundraise and give money. It's not about that. It's actually about projects. It's about hands-on things. It's about making a difference in people's lives. And certainly I can say that for the years that I've been a Rotarian and why I'm still a Rotarian now, I see the contributions and the difference that we make. And so, it's something that it's one of the things I'm proud of.
Beautiful.
As I'm sure you are.
Likewise.
Yes.
By far, one of the highlights of my professional life, and being able to give back in various ways through Rotary. So
Yes.
I definitely agree with you there.
I should add that, as you asked the question, I know that in recent times, at least here in the BVI, there's been some discussion about clubs and the members of the clubs, and whether it's sort of a clique, and whether we sort of look after our own interest as opposed to making a contribution. But I think the record will show if people are really
paying attention,
and if they're honest and they look at what the Rotary clubs have done, I think there's no dispute at the difference we've made, whether in schools, whether in projects for the elderly, whether helping the less fortunate, any number of things. Because let's be honest, governments alone cannot do everything, cannot be expected to do everything. That's why you have Rotary Club, that's why you have Lions Club, that's why you have Kiwanis and other places, and all these other organizations. And so, criticism is, as long as it's constructive, we don't mind. But I think some of the clubs have been a bit unfairly branded
I agree with you.
Right, as sort of cults almost.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say that I think that's an unfair characterization. No club or no organization is perfect. We're all human beings, and perhaps sometimes Some people might lose focus and track of what the real
Mission is.
purpose and mission exactly. But overall, by and large, I think the record speaks for itself. You know?
I agree, and thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I want to take this opportunity, Humphrey, to thank you for not only thank you, but also congratulate you on a very distinguished career.
Sure.
But most importantly, thank you for being authentic, always true to self, and most importantly, a very good example to the up and coming generation as it pertains to hard work, dedication, and what that would lead to.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your contributions, and most importantly, thank you for joining us on the set.
I appreciate that very much. As I said, I think I have probably my parents to thank for, my how I approach life, and I'm an older person now, so you live and you learn, you mature, you grow up. Looking back, perhaps there's things that I could have done even better. But I appreciate the comments. I would like to think that I have made a positive contribution in my 30 plus years here. It's been a very diverse life in terms of my involvement in charities, in sports, in nonprofit organizations, in private sector, and so I certainly can look back so far and say that it's been an interesting life. I hope I've made some contributions indeed. I think I've inspired some persons, colleagues and others. But it's not for me to say or to judge. I leave it to people like yourself and others in the community to, at the end of the day, judge what I've done, whether I've made a difference and my character. So
we'll continue making a difference.
Certainly will try.
Absolutely. Viewers, I want to thank you so much for, of course, being a part of this conversation and, of course, your support in our 6th season. Once again, featuring the very best and brightest of this side of the world, the beautiful British Virgin Islands, ranging in different disciplines and, of course, age groups. I want to thank you guys so much. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.